Good evening, everyone. This is the first official city council meeting we had in our new building. We had several choices tonight, or a couple of choices. We could have all sat up here together and wear our mask, which is what everyone's chosen to do, or we could have social distance. But so that everybody can kind of get a feel for everything, we're going to meet like we would if everything was going well. With that being said, we proceed each council meeting with a word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please feel free to join us. And Miss Mel is joining us via Zoom. Yeah, good evening, Miss Mel. Miss Isby,
Hello.
pray for us?
If you'll bow with me. Our gracious Father, we come before you, thanking you for all the blessings you've given us. We just thank you, Lord, even in this time, that you are with us and you are protecting us. We just pray for those who have family members as well as themselves who are going through the pandemic at this time. We ask, Lord, that everything that we do will be pleasing in your sight, and it's in your name that we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
Now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll?
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Pruitt?
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Should have received copies of the city council May 12, 2020 city council meeting minutes. Any comments, corrections, or changes?
Make a motion for approval as submitted.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8-0. Next up, we will have our monthly financial report from Mr. Winningham. Tyler, are you on? 5 years down.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me. Oh, you can see me now too.
I cannot hear.
How about that? Can everybody hear me? Okay. So far, the news is still good news. We're talking about the month of April. Sales tax wise was for the month of February. It was up 11.4%. Year to date, we're looking at up 7.8%. So that's great news for us. Spending wise, we're still keeping those numbers looking good as well. When we talk about the general fund, I don't usually include the admin department because those numbers are a little bit skewed for the remodel of City Hall. But all other departments, spending through April is down 7% compared to last year. The street sanitation department's spending is not down; it's in fact up, but it's due to capital purchases that were already. The process had kind of already started on those before the COVID-19 quarantine and stay-at-home orders and all that sort of thing happened. So, but our spending in the airport is down 10%. So that's good news. Overall, really not a lot to complain about. We've gotten sales tax in also this month for March, and those were up 3% over the same month last year. So the most up-to-date information we can give you right now is that 3% up, and year to date we're up. I think that took us down just a little bit year to date. We're still up about 6.8% year to date.
Good. Any questions of Mr. Winningham?
You said these are February numbers, didn't you, Tyler?
The sales tax numbers, yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, do you know when we're going to get in March sales tax numbers in? I thought
March We will get our March numbers about the 24th or 25th of this month. Is that correct?
No, those are the ones I was just talking about. We just got March numbers last
What I
week.
thought.
They were up 3%.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah.
We'll get April's at the end.
April will be 24, 25th. April and May are the 2 months we're really wanting to see. Yeah. Anything? Any other questions?
Make a motion for approval of the financials.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the financials for April 30th, 2020. And there's no further discussion. Mr. Garrett, would you call for the vote?
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 Passes 8-0. Okay, next up, we have our standing committees. We will be starting with community development. Mr. Hawkins, I will turn this over to you.
Got to get used to this, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. First item on this portion of the agenda is a resolution to approve aviation fuel and services for the Conway Airport. I saw Mr. Bell's name was up there a moment ago. I don't know whether he's going to do that or someone else is going to do that. Mr. Bell, are you going to do that? Hello from your home.
I'll do it.
Come on.
This is a 5-year contract for fuel at the airport. We had a mayor appointed a subcommittee to look at, we had 4 offers or 4 proposals. The committee unanimously approved Satterfield. That's who we've had the last 5 years. They've done a great job. They're great to work with. They're local, obviously, and they're very community minded. Our little air parade, they donated the fuel for that. So they're just good to work with. And they, the only challenge we've had with them is the equipment, the refueling trucks, and they are going to get us, they're going to take care of that. They're going to get us a newer truck for our avgas. So that would be my recommendation.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution to enter into a 5-year contract with Satterfield Oil for aviation fuel.
What's our resolution number, Mr. Garrett?
That's going to be R2036.
Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to approve amending the Community Development Block Grant Program policies and procedures. And we have a resolution to read for this. It's Resolution R2037. And Kiara, hello.
Hi.
What can you tell us?
So this is just the resolution. We updated the policies and procedures due to COVID-19. And if you view the attachment, it just added a section on requiring virtual meetings, and it's all highlighted. Reduce the timeline for the comment period, and also it added COVID-19 as a disaster emergency event.
I make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Kiara, stay close. We have a resolution to amend the 2019 action plan for the Community Development Block Grant Programs. And this is R2038. Kiara, would you take us through this, please?
Yes, so the action plan amendment is required because we did receive the CARE funding in the total of $269,734. And so upon passage of this resolution, we'll be able to submit the amended action plan to HUD for further guidance.
I make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution for the 2019 CDBG Block Grant Program. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
R2038. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to approve the action plan and budget for the fiscal year 2020 Community Development Block Grant Program. And this is Resolution R2039. 39. And Kiara, one more time, please.
Yes, so this is just your the normal action plan that we submit to HUD each year. This year for 2020, we received $472,390, and if you or $390. And so if you take a look at that attachment, you'll see how we're breaking that down. We're still funding transportation. You'll see that that has not changed much. Admin is still the same. And then with project, we're just finishing out our Fifth Avenue Park project that we did last year. And so, again, we'll just submit that to HUD and move forward.
Make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for the action plan and budget for fiscal year 2020 for CDBG. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Thank you, Kiara. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to enter into an agreement for historic preservation consulting services for the Planning and Development Department. And James, I bet you're, yeah, there you are. Hi, James.
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about this.
So it's been a little bit of a delay. We were awarded $24,630 from the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program to conduct a resurvey of the Robinson District, as well as to do a basically research some sites for a public art interpretive tour. What we're dubbing Tiny Toads, that we have some interpretive elements for those sites for interpretive narrative for that. We have issued an RFQ for those two projects, received 5 responses. And the committee was fairly unanimous in picking Johnson Consulting. They're out of Little Rock. And part of the basis of that was, well, to have someone local that, particularly when you're dealing with something like history, it's good to have somebody that is familiar with the area. Ms. Johnson also formerly taught at UCA, and so she has a very strong familiarity with Conway as well. I'd also like to announce that the Historic Preservation Program had an additional round of grants, and we just got notice today that they will be awarding us about another $9,000, part of which will do a African-American history context for the Pine Street and Markham Street neighborhoods. So that's been a project
Wonderful.
for some of us that's fairly exciting. So.
Yes, it is. Good. Council? I have a motion, a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion? Good job, James. Mr. Garrett.
Resolution R 2040. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance accepting the annexation of lands comprising about 7.5 acres located west of Mill Pond Road. And we have an ordinance to read for this item. It's ordinance 02026.
26.
I'm sorry, Aaron. I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 8-0. But James, would you like to speak to this, please, sir?
Yes, this annexation is in the southwest part of the city. The property is adjacent to Lot 9 of Round Mountain subdivision. So it is jointly owned by this piece of land is owned by Frank Shaw, and then he additionally owns that Lot 9 that will give it access to Mill Pond Road. Mr. Shaw intends long range to develop this into about 5 to 7 lots that will have access to Mill Pond Road. The application was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission and was additionally unanimously recommended by all departments and Conway Corporation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance to annex the 7.5 acres located west of Mill Pond Road. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter.
That passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to approve a conditional use permit to allow a church in R1 zone for property at 1301 Sunset Drive. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting on May 18th of this year. And at that time, the commission voted 6-1 to send this to City Council with a recommendation of approval with 10 conditions. Those 10 conditions are listed. Any significant modifications as determined by the planning director are to be approved to the approved site plan or use shall require an amended or new conditional use permit. Parking area and dumpster enclosures shall be relocated to the interior of the site and screened from the existing trail. Number 3, efforts should be made to retain as much existing vegetation as possible. Number 4, the portions of the Tucker Creek Trail that exist on the property should be dedicated as right-of-way. Number 5, a public access easement or dedication of right-of-way shall be provided for the new trail extension across the property to the adjacent high school property. This trail extension shall be constructed at the same time as the church and is required prior to issuance of final certificate of occupancy. Number 6, a minimum 20-foot evergreen screen should be provided along the northern property line abutting the residential property. That doesn't say vertical or horizontal. I'm assuming it's 20 tall. Number 7, trees planted 30 feet on center should be provided in the landscape buffer on southern property line. Number 8, lighting should be shielded and directed away from the residential properties. Number 9, development shall be subject to the development review process in accordance with section 1101 of the zoning code. And number 10, all signage shall be permitted by the planning department prior to installation. And with those, I move that we grant this conditional use request.
We have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit to allow.
Could I discuss?
Yes,
something?
sir. Mr. Ledbetter.
I talked to James today about adding one more condition, and that is some of the neighbors in the subdivision along Sunset Drive would like for that entrance to be closed unless there's church function going on, keep traffic from going through from Meadow and Sunset, cutting through to Walmart, Chick-fil-A and that way. And James?
Yes.
that-
And I wanted to clarify on that previous one, that's a evergreen screen 20 feet in width. Essentially, it's meant to allow those evergreens to grow up. It's just, it would be left in a vegetative state there. That 11th condition, which staff certainly agrees is a very good condition. It was something we were considering as part of the development review process to make that because we had gotten some comments during the planning commission meeting as well. That 11th condition would read, access to Sunset Drive shall be gated and restricted to use only during times of assembly at the site.
Would you like to make a motion to add that number 11?
I would be glad to do that.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit to allow church in the R1 zone for property located at 1301 Sunset with the 11 conditions. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Thanks, Mr. Ledbetter. Mr. Hawkins.
And finally here, Mr. Mayor, a resolution to enter into an agreement to acquire property at 1714 Tyler Street for the Tyler Street Sidewalk Improvement Project. And we have a resolution to read. It's resolution R2041.
Council?
I'll make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Before we vote on it, Chuck, would you like to bring the council up to speed on it? 1714, Tyler?
I believe Mr. Finkenbeider is here to catch us up
Okay.
on that. He's been doing a lot of hard work. So this is probably the longest track on the Tyler Street sidewalk. It's in between the Faulkner County Library on Tyler Street and the roundabout at Washington and Tyler. The property is largely vacant. It's owned by an out-of-state trust. Transportation tried to reach an agreement with the out-of-state trustees, was not able to, and that's when Chuck said, well, let's take over on this thing. And so we were able to reach an agreement once they had to figure out some trustee issues. So the contract price is the price that the property was appraised by transportation appraisers. So we're pretty happy with the agreement. And it includes, and this is something that Chuck and I thought was very important for these acquisitions, both now and going forward, was to include a right of immediate access in the contracts themselves. So that should help to avoid any delay by transportation and their contractors in getting projects started. And so this contract has that feature as well.
Thank you, Mr. Finkenbeider. Council, do you have any other questions? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. And if there's no further discussion, Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Our last bit of business tonight is new business. It's the discussion. As you know, Chuck has been elected as a judge here in Faulkner County. Chuck's going to be very hard to replace. I work with the city attorney on a daily basis, sometimes for hours. Work with him a lot of time at night, after hours, and on weekends if something goes on in the city. That's usually the first person I call, Chuck and Lisa Mabry Williams. So Chuck, you are going to be missed. That being said, I will turn this over.
Well, thank you very much, Bart. So as you all know, I announced my candidacy for circuit judge last year, and this March I was honored to be elected by the people of Faulkner, Van Buren, and Searcy counties to serve them as a next 3rd Division circuit judge. So very excited. I'll take the bench January 1st, 2021, which means my position as Conway City Attorney will become vacant at that time. Now, while transitioning into my new role as circuit judge is extremely exciting and daunting all at the same time, my immediate focus is making sure that the office that I've held over the last 6.5 years maintains its same level of service, focus, and availability to this body and the others. That's why that I'm recommending this body name my replacement as soon as possible, so the people of Conway, my staff, our district court victims, those involved with all the special projects and civil litigation, and the department heads, along with other boards, commissions, committees that I advise, know exactly what to expect, and we can begin the transition process. One that I believe is going to take at least several months to get whoever my replacement is caught up to speed on all the things that we do and all the things that we handle. The person that you appoint will hold the position as Conway City Attorney until the next general election, which will be held in November of 2022. So they'll fill out my term in essence, and that person will be able to succeed themselves after the appointment if they choose to run for election. And so I would advise that we name that person as soon as possible so we can start putting the things in place to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks and we are able to maintain the level of service that I hope that you've enjoyed over the last 6.5 years while I've held the position.
Thank you, Chuck. Council, there's 2 ways we can do this. We can take open nominations tonight and discuss it like this, or my recommendation would be that we go into an executive session. And if we make a decision tonight, then we will come back and pass on what the decision, if any tonight. Are you guys okay with that? If that's, I'll take a motion and a second to move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Let's move out this over here. Yes, sir. Okay, I need to read it now.
I would read that.
Okay, I've got it in two different places, Chuck. Let me pull it up. Okay. Okay, this body has voted to move into executive session to consider appointing the replacement of City Attorney Chuck Clausen now that he has been elected circuit judge. We will reconvene back in the public session to present and vote on any action taken in private. Thank you, Mr. Clausen. Okay, council, let's adjourn back this way. Okay, so. Okay, we'll reconvene this meeting after executive session. At this point in time, I would like to take a motion for a nomination.
Make a motion to appoint Charles Finkenbeiner to replace Chuck for the next 2 years, starting in January of 2021.
We have a motion and a second to approve a resolution to replace Chuck Clausen as the next city attorney for the city of Conway with Mr. Charles Finkenbinder. This will start January 1st of 2021 for a 2-year term. Any further discussion?
And this isn't anything like an interim or anything, just we're appointed. I don't know how that works for 2 years.
It doesn't really have an interim title. or
Okay,
anything like
so
that.
it's-
I mean, for all practical purposes, he is.
Okay, all
It
right.
would be if it's
Right,
passed.
right.
Yes.
Okay. For a 2-year term, he's an appointed, and then
And
whatever
he
happens
has-
after
he
the
would have
election.
ability to run.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor, before you
Yes, sir.
call a vote on this, can we kind of talk about how we'd like Chuck and Charles to work together and maybe not hold back any on him, Chuck, and throw him in the middle of the fire and let him get in there and get after it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I
Finkenbinder,
think that-
you okay with that?
I'm all about fire.
We got fire all around us, so.
Well, this is something I've been thinking about for quite some time, especially after the election in March. And so I have a pretty detailed plan of transition, and if Charles is going to be the appointed person, then we can really begin that transition process. And I appreciate y'all moving so quickly on this. It really, I know, makes my staff feel a lot better. And then we're in the court system, everybody knows what to expect coming up. So it really does make a difference.
Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
Congratulations, Mr. Finkenbeiner. You were the unanimous choice, passed 8-0.
Just briefly, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Chuck, bringing me back to my home 3 years ago. Not expecting to be standing here, but events kind of overtook us. And I'm glad that Chuck is going to be our new circuit judge, but I'm not glad. I wish he was staying right for us. I know that's not possible. I do appreciate your confidence, and I'll do everything to continue the traditions that Chuck has set in place. Chuck and I work very well together. He is the hardest working city attorney I have ever met in my life. I'm old. He works nights, weekends, and he has done a lot of work that he won't take credit for to make the office what it is today, the best city attorney's office in the state. But I know the work that he put in. I know the hours that he put in and the sacrifices that he made. And I realize that that's a big shoes to fill. My promise and commitment is to keep the tradition that he set alive and to maintain professionalism, the standards that he set for the office of city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Finkenbeiner. You know that Charles and I talk to each other loud and long and hard, but at the end of the day, we shake hands and come to a decision. I expect that from you. Oh, you're wrong there.
Well, I can tell you that the office will be left in good hands for the next 2 years at least. You've earned this, and congratulations.
Thank you. Briefly, I'd like to just give you all a real brief rundown on our COVID-19 operations for Parks and Rec. I know a lot of you have been getting questions from the public. The McGee in the Owens Complex will be open beginning June 1st from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Only 2 people per half court for basketball and 2 courts for pickleball, single only. Track is limited to 10 people at a time, and all visitors must provide name and cell phone number. Splash pads, playgrounds, and public restrooms. Guess I can put my glasses on. Are scheduled to open on June 1st. I'm sorry, the McGee Sports Center has been operating like that. June 1st. Splash pads will be limited to 10 children at a time, and parents must enter with their children. Kids will be allowed to play for 15 minutes, and their parents can play too, while maintaining social distancing. Once their time is up, they will leave through the designated exits. Restrooms will be sanitized each morning and during the day. Baseball, softball fields, and practices can be scheduled starting June 1st, one team per field only. Baseball, softball field tournaments, the tournament director will submit a plan which has been reviewed by the city, which will be Ty Ledbetter, to the state health department. The plan must be approved by the health department in writing and a copy received by the city. The tournament director will be responsible to adhering to the guidelines set forth by the city and the state health department. Currently pending approval, a tournament is scheduled for June the 6th. Teams for current hotspots, teams from cities that have current hotspots will not be allowed to participate. Only 2 spectators will be allowed to attend per player. By limiting the spectator numbers, the most spectators you would have on the field at a field would be 60. Spectators must use lawn chairs for seating, wear masks, and practice social distancing. Teams will not be allowed into the park early before their game time. Double headers will be used during pool play, and teams leaving the field will be escorted out by tournament staff, and the next team will be escorted in to their field. Time between games will be lengthened to help with this process. And from what I understand, we have 102 teams signed up for our first tournament. So this is going to, everybody's ready to play. But Ty Ledbetter has done an excellent job for the city. And he's working really hard with Steve and our tournament people to make sure that we practice social distancing and we do everything that's safe. And I really like the idea that if you have a team coming from a city that has a hot area, they will not be allowed to play. So it looks like the governor's ready for us to play ball. So, and there's a lot of kids ready. Like I said, we'll take the necessary precautions and go from there.
Mr. Mayor, do we have a definition for a hot area?
I will have to ask Mr. Ledbetter, but I will get that to you, Mr. Hawkins. I'll send that to all of y'all. That decision has not been made. I think Ty is going to visit with the state. I know that in other spots around the state, they have not opened concessions. So I will visit with Ty about that.
Mr. Mayor, is there any, I'm thinking about the tennis courts and the tennis center. Are those open now or?
They have been open.
Okay.
You can play singles or doubles.
Okay.
But there are no, they're not teaching any classes right now, Ms. Mel.
Okay.
All right. That's all the business we have for tonight. So I will take a motion to adjourn. We have a motion second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. We are
Aye.
adjourned.